The Allied forces occupying Germany at the end of the Second World War finally reached the streets of Metzingen in April of 1945. Between them, the Allied forces of America, Britain, France, and the Soviets split Germany into occupation zones. The zone that encompassed Metzingen would come to be occupied by the French troops. It was then that the denazification of the region began. The concept of denazification was an effort to examine all of the public offices and positions of power and control within Nazi Germany and remove all traces of the National Socialist Party from those arenas. The denazification process would come to be especially critical of Hugo F. Boss. The Potsdam Declaration would detail the intentions of the Allied forces clearly. All members of the Nazi Party who have been more than nominal participants in its activities, and all other persons hostile to Allied purposes, shall be removed from public and semi public office and from positions of responsibility in important private undertakings. Such persons shall be replaced by persons who, by their political and moral qualities, are deemed capable of assisting in developing genuine democratic institutions in Germany. The process would also trickle down to the educational and judicial systems as well. German education shall be controlled as completely to eliminate Nazi and militarist doctrines and to make possible the successful development of democratic ideas. The judicial system will be reorganized in accordance with the principles of democracy, of justice, under law, and of equal rights for all citizens without distinction of race, nationality, or religion. The administration of affairs in Germany should be directed toward the decentralization of the political structure and the development of local responsibility. To this end, local self government shall be restored throughout Germany on democratic principles and, in particular, through elective councils as rapidly as is consistent with military security and the purposes of military occupation. All democratic political parties with rights of assembly and of public discussions shall be allowed and encouraged throughout Germany. The denazification process wasn't intended primarily to remove or examine business owners, but rather was meant to focus on political offices. The unique amount of involvement with the National Socialist Party that Boss enjoyed made him a prime candidate to be singled out. Hugo F. Boss was not only an active member of the Nazi Party himself, but he had also become good friends with the despised regional Nazi leader, George Rath. The council decided to fine Boss a hefty 100,000 Reichsmarks, the second highest fine imposed in the region. It is clear that the French felt that Boss needed to be made an example of. Ultimately, Hugo F. Boss was classified by the French as a follower, thus he only received the punishment of a fine. Hugo F. Boss would die of a tooth abscess in his lifelong home of Metzingen on 9 August 1948 at the age of 63. The Hugo Boss Company apologizes. The dark past of Hugo F. Boss plagued the fashion company that still brandishes his tainted name for years. So, in an effort to expose the whole truth, the Hugo Boss Company commissioned a historical study. The self commissioned study was extremely revealing. It was made public by the Hugo Boss Company in August 2011. The company issued the following statement on their official website. The study and its summary were produced in cooperation with the highly respected Gesellschaft für Unternehmensgeschäft, a German institution devoted to chronicling corporate histories and its independent historians. The group wishes to emphasize that it was not involved in the research or writing, and that no influence whatsoever was brought to bear concerning the study's form or content. In the past, Hugo Boss AG has often been confronted by vague statements regarding its history. Hugo Ferdinand Boss established his workshop in 1924, as a consequence of which his company operated during the Third Reich and the Second World War. During this period, the factory employed 140 forced laborers, the majority of them women, and 40 French prisoners of war. When the group became aware of this fact, it made a contribution to the international fund set up to compensate former forced laborers. Out of respect to everyone involved, the group has published this new study with the aim of adding clarity and objectivity to the discussion. It also wishes to express its profound regret to those who suffered harm or hardship at the factory run by Hugo Ferdinand Boss under National Socialist rule. Continuing controversy. The Hugo Boss controversy continues to come to light from time to time. In fact, just a few years ago, shock comedian Russell Brand was holding the microphone at the GQ, Gentlemen's Quarterly Fashion Awards, to accept the Oracle Award. The annual event, which was sponsored by the Hugo Boss Company, included an audience of designers and celebrities. Following British Conservative politician Boris Johnson, a somewhat out of place character at the Fashion Awards, Brand made light of the historical origins that Hugo Boss shares with the Nazis. Glad to grace the stage where Boris Johnson has just made light of the use of chemical weapons in Syria, meaning that GQ can now stand for genocide. Quips. I mention that only to make the next comment a bit lighter, because if any of you know a little bit about history and fashion, you know Hugo Boss made the uniforms for the Nazis. The Nazis did have flaws, but you know they did look fucking fantastic. Let's face it. While they were killing people on the basis of their religion and sexuality, genocide quips are okay. No, it's okay, it's okay. It's already been sanctioned. It's all cool. One might assume that the countless headlines in newspapers and online after the event would highlight the lesser known public fact that Hugo F. Boss was a member of the Nazi Party, but instead there was a collective outrage over the nerve of Russell Brand for bringing up the tender subject of the company's sketchy history. Why, Russell Brand's Nazi vibes didn't go over well with Hugo Boss. Why, Russell Brand made a controversial Nazi joke about Hugo Boss. Russell Brand stuns GQ Man of the Year audience with Nazi rant and salute. And Russell Brand thrown out of GQ after party for offensive Nazi jibes about event sponsors Hugo Boss. Apparently, the joke was so poorly received by the sponsors of the event that GQ editor Dylan Jones personally kicked Brand out of the after-show party. That isn't terribly surprising, considering that the Hugo Boss company had donated a whopping £250,000 to throw the event. Russell Brand later posted the following recount of the event on his official Twitter. GQ editor, what you did was very offensive to Hugo Boss. Me, what Hugo Boss did was very offensive to the Jews. GQ awards Nazi traitor or Taylor. GQ magazine wasn't done with punishing Brand. They went on to erase all mention of him in their Men of the Year issue, where Brand had been planned as a focal point in expected fashion. Brand tweeted the following: GQ cleansed me from their issue. That's what they do when they don't like something. I guess that's why they